Hey, what's up, guys? Today we're going to be covering some of the dishonest actions of the Keith Marlowe of Blake's law firm, Calgary, Alberta. He is a bank lawyer for Capital One, and we're just going to cover some of the dishonest actions that he took during a prior case. So essentially, as a standard on this channel, the debtor was requesting verifiable proof of ownership due to the fact that they had qualified for private financing and had a private lender ready and willing and able to pay out the entire balance in exchange for proof of ownership of the debt. Essentially, Keith's stance was that this is a scam and you don't have a real private lender. Therefore, we're not going to do anything to appease you. You can either pay the balance now or we're going to sue you. So the borrower did what any reasonable person would do and said, all right, well, I will have my private lender email you. So here you can see the email that the borrower's private lender had forwarded to Keith, which just states that, hi, I am indeed real. I do have the funds ready to pay the entire balance in full, contingent on receipt of proof of ownership. So, in light of Keith's skepticism, the borrower went and had their private lender swear an affidavit, which is legally binding in a court of law, stating that he is indeed a real person, he does indeed have the funds to pay out the debt in full, and he is indeed requesting verifiable proof of ownership due to the fact that in any commercial transaction, when forwarding funds for an asset, it's standard business practice to verify that the seller does in fact maintain ownership of the asset they're attempting to sell. And this is just to keep everybody from falling into a compromising situation where you purchase an asset from a seller who isn't the rightful owner of that asset, and then the rightful owner comes along, and then you're forced to give that asset back to the rightful owner, and you're out of whatever funds you paid for that asset. So in response to the email from that private lender, Keith attempts to just completely dismiss the borrower and the lender's efforts to prove that they are in fact real and acting in good faith. Keith here just shoots back with blatant skepticism, stating that he doesn't believe the lender is a real person, and even if the lender is a real person, he doesn't believe that the lender has the intention to pay out the borrower's debt. So then the borrower responds with an email pointing out just how absurd this response is. It reads, Keith, in order to resolve your skepticism, why don't you do your job and respond to the lender and let him know what you need to verify he is in fact real? Please explain to me why you would find it hard to believe that I have a private lender participating in the finance industry. It baffles me that I would have to explain this to you. I had the lender reach out to you so you could verify his existence and you ignored him. Go and do whatever investigation into the lender you would like. You should have sent him this email so he can give you his stance on your proposition. Seeing as the funds are his, I'm not sure your thought process was that would make you believe I had the authority to make that decision. To clarify, you should probably respond to the lender and ask him for whatever information it is that you need, i.e. proof of funds, the contract between himself and I, proving his intention to pay, and anything else you require to do your job. So as you can see, Keith Marlowe of Blake's law firm, Calgary, Alberta, is not acting in good faith. When faced with direct evidence that contradicts his rhetoric that the private lender is pretend, he just covers his eyes, ignores the lender, and continues to accuse the borrower of fabricating a lender in order to get out of his debt. If Keith Marlowe was acting in good faith, he would simply respond to the private lender and ask for any documentation needed in order to resolve his skepticism. But due to the fact that if Keith accepts that the private lender is indeed real and does have all the funds to pay out the debt, well, then that would require him to provide proof of ownership, proving that his client does maintain ownership of the debt in order to accept the funds which had been verified. So this is why Keith Marlowe refuses to verify the lender's legitimacy and would rather ignore the lender and continue to push this false rhetoric that the borrower has made up some pretend entity that is going to pay out his debt. In reality, there's really nothing hard to believe about a private lender participating in the finance industry. And there's definitely nothing hard to believe about a buyer of an asset wanting to verify ownership of that asset before they forward funds. I mean, that's just standard business practice. And Keith is only pushing this rhetoric so that he can continue attempting to collect on assets which his client does not own, and that is considered fraud. This is a perfect example of fraudulent misrepresentation and the lengths that these bank lawyers will go to in order to help their clients facilitate fraud on the average Canadian citizen.